Hi there, good morning. My name is Enda McCormack. I'm a 3D visualization artist. And in this video, I want to, over a couple of minutes, quickly demonstrate my extensive skill set and software used to create visualizations from initial concept sketching and storyboarding to white box prototyping of a scene, of a project, of a product, straight through to the polished, fully PBR, real material textured scene. Within, I use the game engines Unity and Unreal for real-time rendering, and I also use V-Ray in 3ds Max for non-real-time rendering. And yeah, this is just a quick let me get stuck in here. So I want to show you through some of the software that I would use. You can see I've got my shortcuts here on the bottom taskbar. But first, we will look at 2D sketching concepts and storyboarding. So, of course, the industry standard is to use Photoshop. Some people use CorelDRAW, Illustrator, other software. I like to use Photoshop. I'm an expert in Photoshop. I have a background before in graphic design and web design. But in Photoshop, I will create digitally with a Wacom tablet. I will sketch out storyboarding cells, so I can sketch pretty fast. In this example here on screen, this particular sketch was for the oil and gas industry. It was for Wood PLC, and it was for subsea pipe lay. So it was to create a 3D animation, a 5-minute 3D animation of oil drilling. This is initially starting off in the office of the software, which is pipe lay, and then you've got the vessel on the ocean. You've got the camera pans through the different departments of the vessel and the different pipeline along the assembly line, where this vessel, it installs the oil and gas pipes subsea in the ocean, and finishing on an ROV inspection. So initially I would have spent 30 minutes sketching up very quickly this storyboard sketching, and I would follow up that sketching with a let me see if I can find this here. I would follow it up with the okay, that's very quick. That is concept sketching done on a Wacom tablet. That's done in Photoshop, and this is the follow-up storyboard animation sketching. Here we've got some more detail on different mechanics of the animation, and also I would sketch up a perspective concept shot of the asset that I would create in 3D. Here in this shot, this example is a pipe lay construction vessel. So I would work off a sketch, then I would work off reference online or reference from the client, and I would build and texture and animate the 3D asset prop for the animations. More sketching. Again, these would be 15-20 minute sketches. More storyboard sketching and detail of props, details of certain assets. And there's an animation of a heavy lifting operation. This is for a VR safety demo. So it is a very vital tool for a 3D visualization artist to have, is the ability to quickly concept sketch and storyboard ideas, and to move from there to create the 3D assets, to texture the assets, unwrap, and to animate in scene. So that's Photoshop for 2D sketching. For 3D sketching of ideas, especially for architecture and product design, I like to use SketchUp. My version of SketchUp has got a lot on the top ribbon. You can see there's a lot of extensions. But I have V-Ray installed for SketchUp, so I can render straight out from V-Ray. V-Ray proxy. I have landscaping tools. I have OBJ and FBX exporter tools from SimLab. Very useful. I've created a separate tutorial on how to use any of these extensions. So basically, what I like to do is I like to set up different scenes inside of SketchUp. Here you can see I have set up an initial grid, which I like to start working off in my SketchUp models. Just that's in orthographic, so let's turn that to perspective. Okay, so what we've got here, that is your default scene, or you've got the I forget his name, Bob or Ernie. This is the 1.7 meter scaled human character that you would be working off as reference for the initial start of your scene. I like to import an image. This is what I created in Photoshop. Is a 12 meter. You can do a 10 meter, 20 meter grid. Each of these grid squares are 1 meter square, and then I will insert a SketchUp 1 meter square grid. So it's a good reference to start, whether you're building a small product like an espresso machine, a product like a concept bicycle, or a complete football stadium or hotel. Is a good starting point to work for reference. And matching up your image in your scene with a 1 meter cube, you would use, I have a different tutorial online for that, showing how to use a tape measure tool, how to rescale elements. So basically, setting up scenes is very useful in SketchUp, because unlike 3ds Max or Maya, you don't have those separate viewports of different elevations and perspective, different orthographic viewports. So I set up scenes. Here you can see I've got a CAD plan, and it is just a graphic from the client. I think this is created, it looks like in Vectorworks, where I've got the ground floor plan and I would loft and extrude all the wall line work, and create different layers, create a separate layer for all the furniture and all the props. So I like to set up scenes, and if you, again, I have tutorials online for that. If you go to scenes on the right hand side, you can add a scene. Here I've got different scenes set up. I can double click. It will take me to the scenes. Also, the scenes are produced here on top on a ribbon. For this project here, over a couple of days, I worked with a client on different concepts. 3D concept sketching of form and shape for residential homes. I would spend maybe, say, 30 minutes speed 3D sketching these different concepts. That's concept 1, concept 2, 3, 4, just giving different variations with different styles. Okay, so that is quite useful. If we go to concept 7, and again I've got a tutorial on this I cannot really cover now, but it just shows the essentials of how to push and pull and how to sketch and create your initial white box elements. One thing you just got to get a hold of straight away in SketchUp is, if you create, say here, a primitive, say a box, if you double click or triple click, you must create it as a group. I've set a keyboard shortcut for that, but you create a group each time, and then when you've got that group, you can easily manipulate, move that group in place, and just say this is a foundation slab for a residential home. And then if you want to start building, say on top, just very quickly the walls, and then you would offset like so, and you would set it to, you can type in point 2, and you set it for 200 milliliters or 200 centimeters, and you've got the wall. You can just loft in place. When you loft your wall in place, if you triple click, again, it's all about creating groups and components inside of SketchUp. So each time you create something, you create your group, and then you're setting up your dimensions, which you can rescale this down to whatever dimension you want. So basically, that's SketchUp is very useful for 3D sketching. And then the next phase would be to take the models into 3ds Max. Nothing fancy in here. This model here is a let me zoom in somewhere here. Let me open up this group and Z in your keyboard shortcut. This is a 3D scan of Dublin Docklands in Ireland, and let me open up that group again. Okay, so this is a 3D drone scan of Dublin City, and first, the first thing you got to do is check out the poly count by setting up the viewport global settings. As you can see here, this is 8 million polygons, but basically I'm breaking down the scene and adding elements. I'm adding some shipping containers here and Dublin port. I got a cruiser in the background, so I'm adding some of my own 3D assets, and I'm optimizing the entire scene. So if I've got a building like so, that's 127,000 polygons. I've set up shortcuts on the computer. I got Optimizer, Pro Optimizer. You calculate, and basically I can step down to say 10%, and the model starts to break up. Take it to 50%, so you can optimize your models. For large AEC, architecture, engineering, working drawings, usually they are in the millions of polygons. If you receive them from a client, if they come from software like AutoCAD, Revit, or Navisworks, Inventor, or SolidWorks, you're going to have to optimize them in 3ds Max, and then re-UV map the different assets. So this particular scene here is to create a concept for a wave park. It's a concept. It's work in progress for creating a horizon viewpoint up here, and an outdoor park with a lot of greenery, a lot of trees and shrubbage, cafes, also some residential blocks built in as well. So this will be a key feature along the entrance to Dublin Port, along the River Liffey, which runs right through the city, and it will be a viewing deck where you can view the Atlantic Ocean, or you can look back upon the city. So once I model out this concept, I'll take this in, then I'll texture inside of Unity or Unreal using Substance Designer or Quixel. So this is a 3ds Max for 3D asset creation. Here we have Quicksille, and this is Quixel Bridge, where you can find all the collections of textures that are available. I like to use Quixel. It has some great collections in here, and at the moment, if you have a membership to Unreal, this is Unreal Studio. This is by Epic Games. If you have an account with Epic Games, you have free access to the Quixel textures. So what you've got in here is you've got PBR textures, and also you've got photogrammetry 3D scans of 3D models in here. If I can show you now, like here, this relief, this Roman sculptural relief, that would be a photogrammetry 3D scan, which would have been photographed from many angles, taken into software and optimized and UV textured, and this is ready to use in your environment in any of the game engines, Unreal or Unity. So you've got a lot of ArcViz. You've got all your textures here. You got all your flooring textures, your textiles. You got your nature projects. You get your stone floors. Beautiful 3D scans. So you've got I mean, anything. Just these libraries are constantly being added to. Garden lawns, and you get some free content in here. These are all 3D assets. These are all photogrammetry work by different artists around the world, which would have taken photographs, say, of this rock from many angles and taken it into software then and created a 3D model that's textured. So you've got Quixel, you've got Substance Designer and Substance Painter, where you can customize your own texture. Here is a mosaic tiled texture that I'm working on at the moment for one of my projects, and you can see here from the node graph, it's node based editing, which is pretty similar to the slate view inside of 3ds Max when you're using V-Ray materials. If you're familiar with that, you will find this quite easy to use, where you've just got plug in from your initial diffuse or albedo texture. You will plug in your normal maps. You got your height maps in here, and then you've got a randomizer which randomizes, say, the height distance for say for the tiling in this situation. So I'll use Substance Designer, Substance Painter also for textures. Initially we used to use Photoshop in the old days, where you'd have you've got your image, say, of planks, and then you would have to individually on separate layers create normal maps and bump maps and height maps, specular maps as well, and use those then in the 3ds Max material visualizer. So that was the old way of doing things. Quixel and Substance Designer make the process more fun. It's faster, cleaner, better seamless textures. And this was initially, what did we use before? We used to use Crazy Bump as well back in the day to create the bump textures, the normal mapping. So that's how we would create that. We would export out that map as a JPEG or a target file and then create the height maps. But now you've got Quixel, you got Substance Designer here, you got Quixel, and online you've got of course the industry standard. This website is great, it's been around a long time, textures.com, where you can download different textures of different resolutions, and you've got some actually are free as an introduction here. That's a 1K by 1K texture. You can go right up to 8K and beyond for a subscription price. So textures.com is quite good. Another great site is HDR Heaven. These are for HDRI sky maps or skyboxes, which can be used inside of the Unity and Unreal game engines. And if I open up Unity here, okay, here, there we go. I've just got a few pieces of software open for this demo purpose. It's not going to open up now. Okay. Here we go. So this is This is a project where I've just got some of my 3D models, my architectural models, where I test them. This is a concept for a hotel, and all of these are to scale. These are some residential homes, and I have set up a HDRI sky in the background. And how I've done that is I've replaced the default skybox that comes within Unity, and I've created a new material, and I've added a cube map. These textures here are downloaded from that site, from HDRI Haven, which most of these are for free. So you would just choose whichever one you want. That's quite pretty. Pluppenheim, you can download that as a 4K, 8K, 16K, straight up to 24K HDRI map. And you can take it into Unity, and then you can map your scene, and you've got realistic global illumination and reflections. So this scene here is a collection of some of my 3D assets where I just test out. Here you can see that I'm just testing out some props for landscaping, for architecture. And this wall here is created with Quixel textures, and these textures are handmade inside of Unity. You got ferns and different foliage, different rocks, and all of these props created in Max and tested out inside of Unity. This is a white box scene of an architectural concept that I've worked on, and it's ready to be textured. And inside of Unity I have set up, there's my folder with my imported FBXs, all of different architecture projects. I've got some props here as well, and I've got materials. So you just have a look at that inside materials. Some of these are taken from Evermotion Arc materials. A lot of these are from Quixel. Creating Quixel here, you've got your different maps, height maps, normal maps, a lot of floor textures here. So this is work in progress at the moment for this project. I'm just building up all of these textures. Again, taken from textures.com, Quixel and Substance Designer, and all of them import into Unity and then taken into the scene like so. And then we've got a few more bits and pieces over here. We've got this is a concept for a football stadium, and this is work in progress where I'm setting up a terrain. So I will do a separate tutorial on creating terrains inside of Unity, but basically that's it's a 3D asset. If you go into assets, if you go into game object, it's a 3D game object, go down, create your terrain, and when you're inside your terrain, you create your textures, your terrain textures, and then you edit and create your proxy trees, shrubs, and foliage, which come in the form of imported FBXs, and then you can just paint on your landscaping. So in this scene, I've got a city here as well. This is just a white box of Dublin City where I'm working on a project at the moment. So this scene is just a collection of different test pieces, as you can see. So I really love Unity for texturing and for creating animations. And for animations, I use, if you go into Project Manager, it's not here at the moment, you download Cinema Machine, which creates a timeline where you can set up your different dramatic camera shots and cutscenes. I have a tutorial on my YouTube site showing how to use the Cinema Machine camera setup. That's Cinema Machine. This scene is not HDRP. This scene was set up with the 3D with extras template from Unity Hub. But what I've set up here is the post-processing volume, so you get the post-processing stack. So on your hierarchy, you set a post-process volume. So you go into game object, 3D, and post-process volume. When that's selected, go to the inspector. Just make sure global is turned on, and then if you right-click inside the project window, and if you create a where are we at? Post-processing profile. If you create that, it will appear here. This is the icon for the profile, and within here then you can add all the different features, which are the post-processing image effects, bloom, ambient occlusion. These are great for architectural scenes, depth of field, and say if we add another effect, if we want to add motion blur, these are great for close-up animations. And if we take off bloom, you can see a little bit of an effect. If we take off ambient occlusion, which is the shadows where objects intersect, and that is a vital choice for architectural visualizations. We have we color correction, we've got color grading. You can see the difference. It's quite dramatic. And with color grading, you also have the I think it's in here. Is it for the let me see. Looking for the oh yeah, that's okay. Okay, so that's important when you're setting up your scene in Unity, is choosing your main camera and then setting the post-processing layer. Again, I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel for this. It'll just take too long to explain all this now, but it's important that you have that attached to your camera and that the layer is set to post. So if you go back and have a look at the post-processing volume, that's set to post. If it's not already populated with the default scene inside of Unity, you will add a layer, just call it post, whatever, so that it's set upon its own individual layer. The post-process volume, you get the post-process profile here, and then you've got the script attached to the camera. That's important. Also important is your settings. Inside Unity, you got project settings. You got to set, not project settings, quality settings. If you go back into edit, and if we go into quality, just make sure that everything's set to ultra, or you can set your own customized setting here. Light count, I've put in 14 here. I've only got one sun in the scene with HDRI map attached, but if you have internal lights inside, say, one of your architectural models, you'll have to step this up to how many lights you haven't seen. 1, 2, 3 dozen lights. Set your multi-sampling to 8. Adjust your shadow distances here, and basically that's the settings for just a standard scene that's non-HDRP scene. So setting that settings is important. Your HDR sky, if you go into lighting using Enlighten, and just to make sure that either real time or baked, I've set this to real time. I will set this to bake, and I will bake my scene when I'm ready to create a build. Before you bake a scene, you also have to create a static version of your prefabs. So say this cafe here, or this modular block here, say for this apartment, This was an initial FBX, a single FBX that was imported here into the project. And if I just click on that and select prefab asset, okay, and we're in here. So this is the original FBX. Bring it into scene, and I have duplicated this several times, so to create an instance of the prefabs, and it creates less of a draw call as well. I can create 100 duplicated instance of this apartment, and it's still light in the scene. But basically the best practice is to create an empty game object, and say for cliff static, take everything below as children. Okay, there's one apartment there missing, this one on top, just to keep everything nice and tidy. It's a great way to tidy up your hierarchy as well as just to create an empty game object, and then to put just to nest the other prefabs as children. So when you've got, we can turn that off. Okay, so when you've got everything nested inside, it is important to click over here and create static. Yes, change children. So now what it's telling Unity is all of these prefabs in this nested group are static. They will not be animated. So then when you go to the stage, when you finish your scene and when you want to bake the lights, that this is calculated. I've auto generate turned off. You can just click generate lighting now, which would take too long. I've got too many FBXs in the scene. It would take 2 hours to bake all the lighting. But basically that's it at the moment. While I'm working in edit mode, I have it on real time. I've got this turned off, auto generate, and I do have the ambient occlusion, the global illumination turned on to work with the post-processing stack. So it is real-time rendering. Okay, that color grading makes quite a difference. So these scenes, these assets are still in white box mode. They've got to be textured. So this is work in progress, where I will take these textures. These are standard materials, got glass. These are just test materials from Unity, and then I've got the texture materials here. Landscape text materials, which were taken in from scans or created from software like Photoshop. Okay, so that's Unity, and that is Unreal. Both those game engines are the final stopping point to create your polished either VR project, AR projection, or if you want to animate a MP4 marketing video. Also, I use After Effects for post-processing to stitch everything together and to add sound and add narration. I also use Revit as my drafting tool of choice. I use ZBrush, of course, for environment and concept sketching. I prefer to use Z-spheres to sketch out characters, and I use low poly 3D meshes from Max or Maya for environmental work, like say for old buildings, say for rocks, for aged materials. And basically that's the pipeline. So again, it's Photoshop and for 2D concept sketching and storyboarding, SketchUp for 3D modeling, for form and shape and spatial awareness, Revit for creating dimensioned working drawings. I use SolidWorks and Inventor as well for products. I've started using Fusion's 360, which is it's an intuitive software for sure. It uses NURB splines to create the profiles for product design, and 3ds Max and Maya for creating the assets. For technical and engineering and architectural assets, I use 3ds Max, and I preferably use Maya for character modeling. And that is it. This is a scene here. It's just taking a while to refresh because I've got so much software open. I've got a powerful machine and powerful graphics card, but when you got Max and Photoshop, yeah, I don't think it would crash this machine now if I had Revit or AutoCAD open. But when we're finished with that scene, we can take it down. I've got 3 Unity scenes open. I just wanted to show you finally just the asset collection I've built up. Now these are props for interior scenes, and they've been textured already inside Unity. Okay, it's a little slow. I'm just trying to pan and orbit in the scene. Okay, so as you can see in here, I've built up a lot of interior elements. Some downloaded, some I've created myself in 3ds Max. Some are free from different sites, some are paid for, and all have been textured. All have actually have been optimized in Max, remapped and textured using Quixel as Substance and Photoshop inside of Unity. So it's a little slow at the moment, as I mentioned, because of the amount of software that's open on my machine. But I've got many of these collection files built up inside of Unity, so it's quite good for reference. I do have a PDF numbered of all of the collections here, and when I work on some architectural projects and interior design projects, I can just come in and I can just drag and drop straight from the Unity project folder into a new Unity project for the scene I'm working on, and the textures will populate with the FBX in scene. So yeah, that's it. So I think I've been talking for 38 minutes. It's a lot of stuff to cover, and I'm trying to get around to doing as many individual tutorials and to slowly and clearly describe the process from initial sketches to whiteboxing to polished environments. Okay, that's Enda McCormack signing off, and hopefully there's some useful information in here to kind of get you inspired to create. Okay, thank you.